similar presentation to the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society regarding wild horses in our capture method as well. A little bit different, the wild horses that we capture or that we trap and transport to a holding facility for adoption, they are within a federally designated wild horse territory. In Indian country, you've got you don't have to, you can treat them as feral horses, but whenever you're working in a designated wild horse territory, there's other rules and regulations and things like that that come into play with that. Part of that is what they call establishing an appropriate management level. And on the Jicarilla District, that level has been established between 50 and 105 horses. And there's roughly, when we first started, there was over 400. In the last 3 years, we've caught several horses, and we're down to estimated population between 175 and 200 at this time. So we've been fairly successful. A little bit about how we got started as a nonprofit. The forest was having some concerns with being challenged all the time on their capturing processes, mainly with helicopters. So the forest wanted to take a different approach and use a conflict resolution contractor who assembled a wide variety of folks to come up with a collaborative process on trying to find a different way where we could reduce the actual horse numbers. And what we've established, Homeland Habitat established, was we're involved in a lot of different things, but mainly the live bait trapping and removal of the horses on within the designated territory. This first particular slide that you're looking at is kind of the Carson National Forest. It's in basically northern New Mexico, and the blue hatches are the two designated wild horse territories that are there. The pink ones are the one on the far northwest is BLM has a wild horse territory as well, and that's what that one is. And the other one is just another area where the horses hang out in addition to the established territory. If we could have the next slide, please. This next slide is a picture of the Jicarilla Ranger District. On the north, it butts up to Colorado, and the neighbors up north are the Southern Ute Indian tribe. And then on the east is Jicarilla Apache Nation. The green is the actual territory within the National Forest lands, and that I guess it's yellow on the west side is the BLM designated horse territory. And then the solid red line, or the solid red, is private lands, which are also okay to live trap bait horses or live trap the horses. Should be noted though, on BLM, right now we do not have any authority to trap and remove any of the wild horses on BLM lands. It's just the Jicarilla territory. Next one, please. Jicarilla Ranger District is pretty rich in different methods that they've tried. We have tried the helicopter roundups. They were very successful. You can catch quite a few horses in a shorter period of time, but it is also very controversial with the advocate groups. The middle picture is an aerial view of what we call a water trap, where we actually have gone in there and fenced around waters. And then during the drought times, there's various entrances that the wild horses can get into, but they can't escape. And that method's been tried. On the right-hand side is a picture of, it was a tripwire mechanism. Whenever the horses came in, they would actually hit the tripwire, and you'd only catch partial of the band. There might be a band of 8 or 10, but you might only catch 3 or 4. Next slide, please. Okay, this is something that Homeland Habitat is developed, and we call it the remote capture process. As you can see, the horses go into the center ring, and I'll show you a little bit better picture of that. But the neat thing about this is it's all done, it's automatically done. We are not on site whenever we're getting these pictures. It's through various cameras, relayed through cell phones, satellite systems, those sorts of things. So we can actually get a live feed and know exactly what's in that trap 24/7. And we can be sitting at our houses, on our couch, and actually we actually get notifications whenever something's coming in. And then we can find out when we think we have the whole band, and we can push a button and we can close the gate on them, and we go up and get them the next morning. The one on the right is an actual video. It's taken at night. Sorry for the, it's just not looking that good, but this actually shows us pushing the button and actually closing the gate. And you can see that the horses don't really react to it too much. So if we could push that button and maybe do that video. And I think that's about it. They just kind of raise their head, and then they kind of go back to eating. And then we go up the next morning and load them up. Next slide, please. Whoa, that's pretty fancy, isn't it? We're getting better, Nick. This is kind of a general design of what the trap looks like. Up above, it's just a series of panels that we've used. They're 7-footers. And then the diagram there kind of shows it's kind of a donut, inner circle and an outer circle. The picture on the right is our automatic gate latch system that we use. Kind of think of it as like a car door. And we can actually trigger that from our cell phone, and it'll release that trigger and the gate will shut. Next, please. This is kind of a out of focus picture, but this is us loading the horses. And one of these days we'll get a better one. But whenever we're loading horses, that's kind of a safety pinch point for not only our folks, but also the horses. So if you want to play that video, though, kind of shows how we kind of load them up. The trailer's over there on the right. Yeah, it kind of shows how they're lining up. And you know, the best way to do that is go slow on everything, because you know, this is the first time they've ever seen the inside of a trailer and those sorts of things. So, but they load up usually pretty easy. Next slide, please. Also, we know if we've got cows in there, if we've got deer, if we've got horses, if we've got bears, whatever, we just don't push the gate or push the gate latch and close it. And that's basically our system. I think on tribal lands, there's been a lot of interest in the last presentation we did with the Fish and Wildlife Society to really look into that. But on tribal lands, you have a lot of other alternatives, you know, that you can sure look at. And this is just one way of doing it. And this is how we've decided to try it on the Carson National Forest. And ready for questions.
Thanks, Mark. I know this has been a really good, Mark and Homeland Habitat have done really good work for us on the Carson National Forest. And, you know, it's been a very successful project. And is there any questions out there for Mark?
You know, if you do, you can also get hold of Nick. We work real closely with Nick. I know in the past Laguna's been very interested, Navajo Nation, Hopi tribe, a couple tribes from Oregon and Washington, and then other big ranches like the Vidal and some places like that. So the interest is there. It does take time though. I think that's one of the drawbacks to this system is, you know, you kind of know where the horses are at and everything, but it's kind of up to the horses to find the trap. And it just takes time. But it is real less stressful for the horses, I believe.
There is a question in the chat. I'm very familiar with the area. Do you guys get a lot of horses that people let loose, and how do you handle that?
We've caught, so far we've caught 3 horses that have been abandoned up on the territory, and the Forest Service asked us to remove those, and we live bait trapped them. Well, I take that back. One, we were able to get feed and actually put a halter on him and just put him in the trailer, but we have live bait trapped a few of the domestic horses that were abandoned.
And those horses come back to the facility that we have in Bloomfield, and from there, then we work with state brand board to get those, because those are stray animals, and so we try to find a way, find the owner, and let them take care of it that way.
And I think Robert would want me to say, if you guys have any questions or need more information, just give us a call.
So Mark, with your, so I'm always intrigued with the whole trap system. So you guys have like a satellite camera, satellite phone?
It's a satellite telephone that connects to our camera. And also we have infrared on there so we can see them at night, which some of those pictures you saw were. So we know exactly what we have in the trap. And then that information is relayed up through the satellite or through our cell phone provider. And it actually notifies us. And then we kind of keep looking on our cell phones. And if we had one of our younger kids there, we'll hook it up to our TV at the house. But we're not that smart, so we just use our cell phones to find out what we have in there. And then whenever we pretty well know when we have the whole band, and then we deploy the gate, and then we make a bunch of phone calls and make sure we got the right amount of people up there to haul them in the next morning, or that afternoon. We catch them all times, day, night, whatever. I say catch, we've trapped is a better word.
Any more questions for Mark? Well, thank you, Mark.
Whoop, there's another one here, Nick.
Oh, sweet. Is there a way to look around the trap before closing it to see if any horses are outside or waiting to go in?
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. We had 3 different bands last week, and they kind of hang out in their bands. And we knew there was 3 in one band, 6 in another, and then we have another band of 8 that we have not trapped at this time. But we go up there quite a bit. We have to feed every once in a while. You know, rebait the trap. We do feed with hay and salt, and then we're kind of playing around with some other mixtures so that the horses like it. We call it the secret sauce, but we haven't really got that dialed in yet. But we're up there, rebaiting that trap probably 2 to 3 times a week this time of year, because the deer are in there pretty hard. And you got to be careful, because those horses see, and we try to avoid that because they're pretty smart. And but we'll drive around and look around, and we pretty well know when we got the whole band in.
Do you use just one trap, or do you have multiple traps?
Right now we have 2 traps, and we're thinking about trying to design one on our own for Homeland Habitat. Right now the traps we use belong to the Forest Service, They've been kind enough to let us use their trap, but we kind of want to expand out and kind of develop our own kind of a better mouse trap or a better horse trap. We're kind of playing around with that idea a little bit. But it's been a true partnership with the Forest Service and this collaborative group as well. And I think that's one of the successes why we are able to remove horses on the Jicarilla territory is the advocates can see what we're doing. They know exactly what we're doing and those sorts of things.
Can you talk a little bit more about the collaborative, Mark?
You bet. Yeah, the Jicarilla Wild Horse Territory in particular has had animals on it, geez, for a long time, last 80, 90 years. Those populations estimates that you've seen historically been up to 1,000, down to 100, all over the place. The Forest Service has done helicopter gathers. They have tried these water traps, just various different methods. But right now with the advocate groups, at least on federal lands, they're getting pretty active on no helicopter gathers. And one of the, their issues, at least on federal lands, is they can go and just sue you right away, or sue the Forest Service right away, or BLM. And consequently, you don't get anything done. So I think that's why the Carson wanted to try a different approach to get some of these advocacy groups together, and Humane Society's in on this as well, and some of the range permittees and just other interested groups, Fish and not Fish and Wildlife Service, but Game and Fish has been very active, and just get everybody sitting around and talking about things. And so far, we've caught, I think, 175 horses so far in the last couple of years. And another thing with this collaborative group is they don't make decisions, but they get together and they kind of formulate some other interests that they have. One of them is fencing, restoration is another one, waters, adopting those horses out also is another big one. And kind of come up with a plan and present that to the Forest Service for their consideration for future management as well.